My name is Kira Brennan and I was 25. The year my mother told me I was no longer her daughter. She said it in front of 43 people at a restaurant in River North, standing beside a cake she hadn't ordered, holding a glass of wine she'd already finished once, and refilled from the bottle my father had bought for the table. She said it clearly, loud enough that the table beside us stopped talking. You were a mistake from the beginning, Kira. We should have sent you back when we had the chance. My father, Tom Brennan, did not disagree. He looked at his plate. My sister Lauren, the biological daughter, the one they had tried for 7 years to conceive before they gave up and adopted me, looked at her phone. I sat very still. What none of them knew, what I had only learned 6 days earlier, was that my birth mother was sitting 3 tables away with her husband and 2 sons, watching the whole thing happen in real time. And she had been looking for me for 11 years. I need to take you back to understand how we got to that restaurant. I was adopted at 8 days old through a private agency in Indiana. Closed adoption, sealed records, the kind where the birth mother signs away all rights, and the adoptive parents are told they will never be contacted, and the child grows up knowing only that they came from somewhere else, but not where. I grew up in Evanston. My parents were both academics. Tom taught economics at Northwestern. Catherine was a research librarian at the university library. They were organized, intellectual, emotionally measured people who had decided children would complete a picture they had been carefully assembling since graduate school. Then Lauren was born when I was 4, the miracle baby, Catherine called her, the one we prayed for. I was standing in the hallway outside the hospital room when she said it to a nurse. I was 4 years old, and I understood 2 things in that moment. Lauren's was the miracle. I was the placeholder. The shift was immediate and total. Lauren's baby photos went on the mantle. Mine came down. Lauren's preschool artwork went on the refrigerator with magnets my mother brought home from conferences. My drawings went in a folder in the hall closet that nobody opened. By the time I was 10, I had learned the house rules. Lauren was the daughter they talked about at faculty dinners. I was Kira, our older one, usually said with a slight pause before the phrase as if they were still deciding whether the sentence required more detail. I was good at school, not exceptional, not the kind of good that earns awards, but steady, competent, the kind of good that doesn't require parent-teacher conferences or intervention. I graduated high school with a 3.7 GPA and a partial scholarship to DePaul. I studied data science because I liked the way numbers behaved predictably when people didn't. I worked part-time at a nonprofit called Second Harvest, a food distribution network that served Chicago's south and west sides. My job was database management, tracking inventory, coordinating delivery logistics, optimizing routes. Invisible work that kept 40,000 people fed every month. Catherine had described my job once to a colleague as Kira does some computer work for charity. I was 25. I had my own apartment in Pilsen. I had built a life that didn't require their approval because I had learned by the time I was 8 that their approval had conditions I would never meet. But when Catherine called in late April to say they wanted to throw me a birthday dinner, something in her voice was different, warmer, almost apologetic. She said, "We haven't celebrated you enough, Kira. Let us do this." I should have known better. I said yes. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, not in the mail, hand-delivered to the Second Harvest office by a woman who told the front desk her name was Nicole Vega and that she needed to speak with Kira Brennan about a private family matter. I was in the back room running inventory reconciliation when Marissa, our intake coordinator, came to find me. Her face had the careful neutrality of someone delivering information they don't understand, but sense is significant. "There's a woman here for you." She said it's important. Nicole Vega was standing in the lobby near the window, 46 years old, dark hair pulled back, jeans and a canvas jacket, hands folded in front of her, the way people stand when they're trying to look smaller than their courage. She looked at me for 3 full seconds before she spoke. Then she said, "I'm your mother. Not I think I'm your mother. Not I might be related to you. I'm your mother." I sat down in the nearest chair without deciding to sit. She stayed standing. She pulled an envelope from her jacket pocket, thick, the kind that holds documents and set it on the table between us. I've been looking for you for 11 years, she said. Since you turned 14. That's when I hired someone to start the search. Indiana sealed the records, but I kept looking. I found you 4 months ago. Why didn't you contact me 4 months ago, I said. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Because I wanted to be sure, she sat down across from me. And because I wanted to understand who had raised you before I introduced myself. She paused. I've been watching from a distance, Kira. I know where you work. I know you live in Pilsen. I know your parents are Tom and Catherine Brennan, and that you have a sister named Lauren. She slid the envelope toward me, inside a manila folder. On top, a copy of my original birth certificate, the one sealed by the state of Indiana 25 years ago. Mother's name, Nicole Marie Vega. Father's name, unknown. Infant's name, baby girl Vega, later amended to Kira Marie Brennan upon finalization of adoption. Beneath it, a letter written on lined paper in blue ink, dated 2 weeks after I was born. It was addressed to me. Kira, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if they'll let you. But I need you to know I didn't want to give you up. I was 17. I had no family support, no job, no way to keep you safe. I thought adoption was the kindest thing I could do. I thought you'd have everything I couldn't give you. I have thought about you every single day since. If you're reading this, it means I found you, and I hope you'll let me explain. I read it twice. My hands were shaking. I looked up. Nicole's eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. She was holding herself together the way you hold something breakable that you're afraid to drop. I have 2 sons now, she said. You're half-brothers. Michael is 9, James is 7. I've been married to their father, David, for 12 years. We live in Lakeview. She paused. I'm not here to disrupt your life, Kira. I'm here because you deserve to know where you came from. And because I owe you the truth. I asked the only question I could form. Why now? Why this week? She looked at the table, then back at me. Because your mother called me 6 days ago. I went very still. Catherine called you. Nicole nodded. The agency has a contact protocol for adoptive parents who want to initiate communication with birth families. It's rare, but it exists. Catherine used it. She said she wanted to inform me that you were turning 25 and that they were hosting a dinner in your honor. She said as a courtesy, she thought I should know you were doing well, a courtesy. That was the word Catherine had used, a courtesy. I thought about the phone call in April, the warmth in Catherine's voice. We haven't celebrated you enough, Kira. She hadn't called to celebrate me. She had called to perform for Nicole, to prove that the family who raised me had done it correctly, that I was fine, successful, integrated, and that Nicole's choice 25 years ago had produced the outcome everyone could feel good about. Nicole leaned forward. Kira, I don't know your parents. I don't know what kind of people they are. But when she called, something in the way she spoke about you felt wrong. She spoke about you, the way you'd speak about a project that turned out adequately. She pulled a second piece of paper from the envelope. A reservation confirmation. Gibson's Steakhouse, River North, Saturday, May 15th, 7 p. Party of 12. I made a reservation, Nicole said quietly. 3 tables away from yours. I wasn't going to approach you. I just wanted to see you, to see the person you'd become in a room with the people who raised you. She paused. If that's a violation, I'll cancel. But I wanted you to know I'd be there. I looked at the reservation confirmation, then at the birth certificate, then at the letter written in blue ink 25 years ago by a 17-year-old girl who thought adoption was the kindest thing she could do. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. Don't cancel, I said. Gibson's Steakhouse on Saturday night was exactly the kind of place Catherine Brennan would choose to perform success. White tablecloths, brass fixtures, the particular hum of a room where people ordered wine by the vintage and didn't look at the right side of the menu. The reservation was for 12. Extended family, a few of Catherine's colleagues, Tom's department chair, Lauren and her fiancé. I arrived at 7:05 in a dress I'd bought specifically because it was simple and wouldn't give Catherine anything to comment on later. Navy, knee-length, the uniform of someone who has learned not to draw fire. The table was near the center of the dining room, high visibility. I understood immediately that this wasn't a celebration. It was a showcase. Catherine stood when I approached. She kissed my cheek, the kind of kiss that doesn't make contact, and gestured to the seat she'd chosen for me. Middle of the table, surrounded, no exit. Across the room, 3 tables to the left, I saw her, Nicole Vega, seated with a man I assumed was David and 2 boys, 9 and 7, who had my chin and my hands. She met my eyes for half a second, then looked away. She was keeping her word. Watching, not approaching, I sat down. The first hour was performance. Catherine narrated my childhood the way she narrated everything selectively, with editorial control. She told a story about my 4th grade science project, a volcano I had built from a kit, and made it sound like I had discovered plate tectonics. She mentioned my job at Second Harvest in a sentence that included the phrase, Kira's little nonprofit work. Tom nodded along. Lauren checked her phone. The department chair, a woman named Dr. Feldman, asked what I did at Second Harvest. I started to answer. Catherine answered for me. Database management, inventory logistics, that sort of thing. Kira's always been good with systems. She said systems the way you'd say filing. The food arrived. Steaks, sides passed family style, a bottle of wine Tom had selected without asking anyone's preference. Catherine poured herself a second glass before the first course was finished. By 8:30, she was on her 4th glass. That was when the performance started to crack. Dr. Feldman asked me about graduate school, whether I'd considered it. I said I was happy with my current work, that I'd built something meaningful at Second Harvest. Catherine laughed. Not a polite laugh, the kind that cuts. Meaningful, she repeated. Kira, you coordinate food deliveries. It's a supply chain optimization system that serves 40,000 people a month, I said. I kept my voice level. It's meaningful to them. Catherine set down her glass. The table went quiet. She looked at me with an expression I had seen my entire life, but had never named until that moment. Not disappointment. Not frustration. Contempt. You've always been defensive, she said, ever since you were small. We gave you everything, Kira. Everything. A home, an education, opportunities you never would have had. And you've spent 25 years making us feel like it wasn't enough. Mom, Lauren said quietly. Not here. Catherine ignored her. She stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. The table beside us stopped talking. I could feel eyes turning. You were a mistake from the beginning, Kira. She said it clearly, each word deliberate. We should have sent you back when we had the chance. The room held its breath. Tom looked at his plate. Lauren looked at her phone. Dr. Feldman looked horrified. Catherine reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She placed it on the table in front of me. We're done, she said. Legally, financially, emotionally. You're 25. You're an adult. We've fulfilled our obligation. She pushed the envelope toward me. That's a notarized letter, stating, we are formally severing the parental relationship. You're no longer our daughter. I looked at the envelope. I didn't touch it. Then I looked past her. 3 tables to the left, Nicole Vega was standing. Her hands were on the table. Her husband had his hand on her arm, holding her back. But she was standing, and her face was the face of a woman who had just watched someone discard the child she had spent 11 years searching for. I looked back at Catherine. I picked up the envelope. I stood. I said one sentence. You were never my mother, Catherine. You were the woman who raised me badly. Then I walked toward the table where my real family was waiting. Nicole met me halfway. She didn't run. She didn't make a scene. She simply stood and walked toward me with the deliberate calm of a woman who had been preparing for this moment for 11 years and wasn't going to waste it on anything performative. We stopped 3 feet apart. The restaurant had gone quiet in the particular way. Rooms go quiet when something is happening that people don't want to miss, but also don't want to be caught watching. Nicole looked at me, not at Catherine's table behind me, not at the room, at me. Are you okay? She said. Her voice was steady. The question was not. I nodded. I didn't trust my own voice yet. She gestured to her table. Come sit, please. I followed her. David stood when I approached. He was tall, early 50s, the kind of face that had smile lines around the eyes from years of actual smiling. He held out his hand. Kira, he said, I'm David. We're glad you're here. The 2 boys were staring at me with the unfiltered curiosity of children who had been told they had a sister and were now trying to reconcile the concept with the person standing in front of them. The younger one, James, said, "You're really tall." Nicole laughed. It was a real laugh, not the kind Catherine deployed at faculty dinners. A sound that came from relief and nerves and something breaking open in a good way. I sat down. Michael, the older boy, slid a basket of bread toward me without a word. A gesture of inclusion so simple and unthinking that it landed harder than anything Catherine had said at the other table. I took a piece of bread. I didn't eat it. I just held it. Nicole sat beside me. She didn't touch me. She gave me space and proximity at the same time. The way someone does when they understand that comfort has to be offered, not imposed. "I've wanted to meet you for so long," she said quietly. "Not like this. I never wanted it to be like this." I looked at her, at the face that had my cheekbones and my hands, and an expression I had seen in the mirror my entire life, but never understood belonged to anyone else. "You came," I said. "That's what matters." David leaned forward. "Kira, I don't know what just happened over there, but you don't owe anyone an explanation. Not to us, not to them. You're here now, that's enough." Behind me, I heard movement. Chairs scraping. Voices rising in the controlled hush of people trying to have a private conversation in a public room. Catherine's voice cut through. Louder than it should have been. The whine doing what whine does when control is the only thing holding someone together. "Kira, come back to the table." I didn't turn around. Nicole did. She stood slowly. She looked past me toward the table I had just left. Catherine was standing. Tom was trying to pull her back into her seat. Lauren had her face in her hands. Dr. Feldman was signaling for the check. Catherine's eyes found Nicole. For 1 second, maybe 2, she didn't understand. Then recognition landed. I watched it happen. The way you watch a demolition in slow motion, the moment the supports give, and the frame realizes it has nothing left to stand on. "You," Catherine said. Nicole didn't move. "I'm Nicole Vega." Catherine looked at me, at Nicole, back at me. "You called her." Her voice was shaking now. "You brought her here." Nicole's voice was calm. "You called me, Catherine, 6 days ago. You told me about this dinner as a courtesy. So I came. As a courtesy." The room wasn't pretending not to watch anymore. Catherine's face was the color of raw brick. "This is a family event. You have no right." "I'm her mother," Nicole said. She said it quietly. She said it the way you say something that has always been true and doesn't require volume. "I've been her mother since the day she was born. You were the woman who raised her badly." She used my words. Exactly. Catherine opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Tom stood. He put his hand on Catherine's arm. "We're leaving," he said. It wasn't a suggestion. They left. Lauren followed without looking back. Dr. Feldman left cash on the table and walked out without saying goodbye to anyone. The restaurant slowly returned to its previous noise level. I sat at the table with Nicole and David, and 2 boys I had known for 8 minutes who were my brothers, and I looked at the bread basket in front of me and the family I hadn't chosen, but who had chosen me anyway. Nicole reached across the table. She put her hand over mine. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," she said. "No pressure, no expectations. But if you want to know us, we're here. We've always been here." I turned my hand over. I held hers back. "Okay," I said. It was the only word I had. It was enough. I didn't open Catherine's envelope that night. I took it home and put it on my kitchen counter and left it there for 3 days while I decided whether the contents mattered more than the gesture. On the 4th day, I opened it. Inside, notarized letter. 2 paragraphs, legal language, Catherine's signature and Tom's side by side. It stated that they were formally terminating the emotional and financial relationship with me, that I was no longer considered part of the Brennan family unit, and that I should not expect inheritance, support, or contact going forward. It was dated 2 weeks before my birthday. They had planned it. The dinner, the performance, the public severance, all of it orchestrated. I read it once. Then I photographed it, saved it to a folder labeled documentation, and put the original in a drawer. I didn't respond. I didn't call. I didn't contest it or correct it. I simply let them go. Nicole and I started slowly. Coffee first, the following week. Then dinner with David and the boys. Then a Sunday afternoon at the Museum of Science and Industry where Michael explained the physics of the pendulum, and James asked if I liked dinosaurs, And I said yes, even though I didn't, because I liked the way he lit up when I said it. By July, I was at their house in Lakeview twice a week. By September, I had a key. Nicole never asked me to call her mom. She introduced me to people as my daughter, Kira, and let me respond however I wanted. Sometimes I said Nicole. Sometimes I said my mom. She never corrected either. David taught me to make his grandmother's tamales at Christmas. The boys made me a birthday card in February with 26 candles drawn in crayon because James insisted you needed one to grow on. I spent my 26th birthday in their backyard. 30 people, most of whom I'd met in the past year. Colleagues from Second Harvest, friends Nicole had known since high school, neighbors who brought their kids and casserole dishes and stayed until the fire pit burned low. Nicole made a cake. Chocolate buttercream, my name spelled out in blue frosting, by two boys who argued over whether the K should be capital or lowercase. When she brought it out, candles lit, the whole yard sang. I looked around at the faces, people who had chosen to show up, people who hadn't needed a performance or a showcase or proof that I was worth their time. I blew out the candles. Nicole leaned close and said, "What did you wish for?" "I didn't wish for anything," I said. "I already have it." Catherine sent one email 14 months after the dinner. Subject line, "Reconsidering." I deleted it without opening it. Some people spend their whole lives raising children they never wanted and call it sacrifice. Other people spend 11 years searching for a child they had to let go and call it love. I know the difference now. That's my story. One dinner, one letter, and a mother who never stopped looking. If you've ever had to choose the family that chose you back, you already know what that means. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.